Think about the last time you bought groceries, filled up your car with gas, or grabbed a coffee from a cafe. You touched the receipt. You held it for a few seconds. Maybe you folded it into your wallet. Nothing about that moment seemed dangerous. But new research has revealed something profoundly disturbing. Holding a paper receipt for just 10 seconds can expose your body to enough of a toxic, hormone-disrupting chemical to exceed California's daily safety limit for that compound. Absorbed not through your mouth, but directly through your skin. This is not a fringe theory. In April 2025, a study reported by major international media analyzed receipts from leading U.S. retailers and found that brief skin contact with thermal paper receipts results in bisphenol S exposure above established safe harbor levels. The chemical does not need to be ingested. It does not produce any odor, sensation, or immediate warning. It crosses your skin silently, enters your bloodstream, and stays there far longer than the same chemical would if you had swallowed it. Today you will learn exactly what is coated on every paper receipt, why skin absorption makes it more dangerous than eating it, what it is doing to your hormones and long-term health, which people face the highest daily risk, and a complete 7-day protocol to systematically reduce your exposure starting today. The story begins with how paper receipts are printed. Unlike standard paper, thermal receipts do not use ink or pressure. They print with heat, using a color developer chemical coating on the paper surface. For decades, the most widely used developer was bisphenol A, or BPA, a compound that mimics estrogen in the human body and disrupts the entire endocrine system. BPA was eventually restricted in many countries after being detected in baby bottles, food can linings, and plastic containers. In response, the receipt paper industry switched to alternatives, primarily bisphenol S, or BPS, and bisphenol F, or BPF. The problem is that these replacements are not safer. Multiple studies confirm that BPS and BPF disrupt thyroid hormones at even lower concentrations than BPA, and their endocrine disrupting effects are comparable or worse. In certain biological systems, an analysis of major Korean supermarket receipts found BPS at an average concentration of 0.61% more than 30 times the European Union's legal limit of 0.02% for BPS in thermal paper. Studies have found that individual thermal receipts can contain bisphenols at concentrations 250 to 1,000 times greater than the amount in a can of food. Why is skin absorption so much more alarming than ingestion? When you eat BPA, it passes through your digestive tract and liver, where a process called first-pass metabolism rapidly breaks it down and clears most of it through urine within 24 hours. When BPA enters through your skin, it bypasses this filtration entirely. It goes directly into your bloodstream and circulates for more than 48 hours. Research on dermal BPA absorption shows that blood and urine BPA levels after skin exposure can exceed those from equivalent oral doses. Holding a receipt for 45 seconds has been measured to raise skin BPA levels to 581 micrograms. And if your hands have lotion, hand cream, or hand sanitizer on them, the absorption multiplies dramatically. One study found that using hand sanitizer before handling a receipt increased BPA absorption by up to 185 times. The alcohol in sanitizers disrupts the skin barrier, turning your fingertips into highly permeable absorption surfaces. In a world where hand sanitizer use became universal, this is a genuinely alarming finding. The population at greatest risk is cashiers, supermarket workers, gas station attendants, convenience store clerks, and bank tellers who handle hundreds or thousands of receipts every working day face dramatically higher exposure than the general public. Studies show cashiers have bisphenol blood levels 1.5 to 13.4 times higher than non-cashiers. The median bisphenol exposure among cashiers exceeds established, tolerable daily intake limits. Research has also found elevated oxidative DNA damage in cashiers with higher BPA exposure. And DNA damage is the foundational mechanism of cancer development. This is an occupational health crisis that most affected workers are completely unaware of. What does chronic bisphenol exposure do to the body? Because these compounds mimic estrogen and interfere with thyroid and androgen receptors, their effects span virtually every hormone-sensitive system. Scientific literature has identified associations between bisphenol exposure and increased risk of breast cancer, particularly aggressive triple-negative breast cancer, as well as prostate cancer, cardiovascular disease risk elevation, type 2 diabetes, promotion, and obesity are also documented concerns. In reproductive health, bisphenols are linked to ovarian dysfunction in women, reduced sperm count and sperm DNA damage in men, and impaired fetal development. In children, associations with premature puberty, neurodevelopmental disruption, and behavioral changes have been reported. No single receipt transaction causes immediate visible harm. The danger is cumulative, compounding exposure that builds over a lifetime of daily contact. Here is your 7-day exposure reduction plan. On day 1, change how you handle receipts immediately. When you must accept one, hold only the back edge or uncoated. Reverse side, minimize contact time, and never grip the glossy printed face. The bisphenol developer is concentrated on the shiny printed surface. The faster and lighter your contact, the less transfers to your skin. On day 2, switch to digital receipts wherever possible. Most major retailers, banks, and service providers now offer email or app-based receipts. In South Korea, services allowing digital receipt delivery through platforms like KakaoTalk and Naver Pay are expanding rapidly. Ask at every checkout. This single habit eliminates the exposure entirely. On day 3, treat the hand sanitizer rule as non-negotiable. Never touch a receipt immediately after applying hand sanitizer, lotion, or sunscreen. Wait until your hands are completely dry and the skin barrier has partially recovered. If you must handle multiple receipts immediately after sanitizing, consider wearing thin, nitrile or vinyl gloves. On day 4, clear old receipts from your wallet. Receipts stored against banknotes and cards contaminate them with bisphenols over time. If you must keep receipts for records, store them in a sealed separate envelope. And wash your hands with soap and running water after handling any batch of paper receipts. On day 5, if you or a family member works as a cashier, begin wearing thin disposable nitrile or vinyl gloves during shifts. This is not optional for pregnant workers or those planning pregnancy. The developing fetus is among the most biologically vulnerable populations to endocrine-disrupting chemicals and occupational receipt exposure represents a real and preventable risk. On day 6, address bisphenol exposure from food sources in parallel. Can linings contain bisphenol compounds that leach into food, especially when heated? Avoid microwaving food in plastic containers. Replace plastic food storage with glass, ceramic, or stainless steel. Never pour hot liquids into plastic cups. These food source reductions combine with receipt exposure reduction to lower your total daily bisphenol body burden. On day 7, share this information. The people who most need to know this are cashiers, parents of young children, pregnant women, and anyone who handles receipts as part of their daily work. Awareness is the first and most powerful form of protection. One important scientific note: the full carcinogenic classification of BPS and related bisphenol alternatives is still under active investigation by international health bodies, and not every association in animal studies has been conclusively confirmed in human trials. However, the endocrine-disrupting properties of these compounds are established across hundreds of peer-reviewed studies. The precautionary principle strongly supports reducing exposure, particularly during pregnancy, early childhood, and reproductive years. Complete elimination of bisphenol exposure is not realistic in modern life, but the steps outlined here can meaningfully reduce your daily burden. From one of the most overlooked and underappreciated sources, the receipt you accepted without a second thought. This morning is not just paper. It is a chemical delivery system, pressed directly against the most absorbent surface of your body. Now you know. Make the switch to digital. Keep it brief when you cannot. Wash your hands after. And share this with the cashier at your next checkout, because they are the ones who need this information most. Subscribe now and share this video with anyone who handles paper receipts every day.